Hey guys, it's Editing Giles here. Early on Thursday morning, I got the chance to talk to Esther Hyam on Inspirational Breakfast on Premier Christian Radio about House of David, the new show that's out on Amazon Prime about the life of King David, or the very early life of King David, I should say. We had a great chat, and I thought you'd like to hear it in case you missed it. Hope you enjoy.
You're listening to Inspirational Breakfast.
It is 8:31 this Thursday morning. And is it me? Or does it feel like there's more faith-based content on our screens lately? Aside from the astronomical success of The Chosen, season 5 out soon. Very excited about that. We've also had big screen outings on the story of Mother Cabrini, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and the musical of the Christmas story, Journey to Bethlehem. Well, now Amazon Prime has entered the fray with its new series called The House of David. The show depicts the rise of King David, tracing his journey from shepherd boy to the king of Israel and Judah. Here's a little snippet.
David's heart is like a deep fire, set strong, unbroken. It is the very reason he was chosen.
I want a place with the king's warriors.
David, you are a poet, and you are a shepherd. You are not a man of blood.
I was meant for more than this.
King's a Philistine. We shall ride against Saul. But our gods and nightmares will go before us.
David, you have the heart of a lion. What do lions do? They roar.
Stand be our champion!
Dramatic stuff. A clip from the new Amazon Prime series House of David. Now, the show has already been commissioned for another season, but is it worth your precious screen time? And how closely does it stick to the Bible narrative? Well, joining me now is Giles Gough. He's a writer and host of the God in Film podcast. He's written a rather glowing review of the series for Premier Christianity. So good morning, Giles. Tell me about your first impression when you first started watching The House of David. Is it really that good?
Hi Esther, thanks for having me. So I don't know if you're anything like me, but the idea of like Christian media still gives you a sense of wariness. So
Yeah.
when you see it and it's actually good, you get this tingly sense of relief. Oh, they actually know what they're doing. Thank goodness for that. It starts in Medias Res. It starts off like with this one question: can one stone change the course of history? You see David picking a stone out from the river. He walks up onto the battlefield. Goliath, who is like a double-decker bus tall, comes out the other side. He starts running towards him. Goliath is throwing spears at him left, right, and center, and then one pins him to the floor. And then we go to a flashback. You're like, oh, yeah, that.
So what's the narrative device going on there?
So it's essentially almost like saying, look, we're going to get to the good stuff, but we're going to take our time getting there. It flashes back to like roughly about a year earlier. You see David out in the field. You see his very contentious relationship with his father. We see Saul and the way we actually see Saul winning a battle and then erecting a monument saying this battle was won by Saul, who is awesome in every way, shape, and form. And we also see Samuel absolutely sort of weeping over the fact that God has now taken the anointing away from Saul and he knows what's going to come next and the agony of that. And it's just shown so beautifully. There's a young man, Michael Iskander. I think he's more or less a newcomer playing the role of David. And the best way I can put it is he's handsome, but he's not too handsome. He's good looking, but not distractingly so. And there's one scene quite early on, a little montage of David working out in the fields. A sheep goes missing. He leaves his flock to go after this one sheep. And you're like, oh, are we going to be knocked over the head with biblical foreshadowings for everything? But then there's just this next shot where he's holding the lamb that's missing and he's just stroking it, and it kind of wins you back over amazingly quickly. And I think it's just It's fascinating because we know that David is going to become, how can I put this delicately, somewhat problematic later on. So you see in Saul the almost a foreshadowing of the sort of thing that David could become. There's this one line where Saul is talking to his son Jonathan, and he's saying, "All men change." So it makes me almost anxious for a season two because this first season so far, the first few episodes has only covered 1 Samuel chapter 15 up to 16. It's really taken its time getting through it. So I am fascinated to see where it's going to go next.
How closely does it stick to the biblical narrative?
I mean, that's a really good question. Because again, it's only 2 chapters. I could knock out an interpretation of this over lunch, you know? So when we talk about how closely, I think what we're asking is how much is added. I'm not a biblical scholar by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm sure there are people who, should they feel so inclined, could probably nitpick something. But I think the better question is more like how true does it feel to the story? And so far, it feels pretty true indeed. They've obviously added things and they've put in extra aspects. There's this one question about when Jesse, and if you look in 1 Samuel, Jesse assembles all of his sons when Samuel, who is this big important prophet, comes, and it asks, well, why does he leave out David? Why does he leave David to be tending the sheep? And there's this real suggestion that it's never said explicitly, but there's this real interesting suggestion that David might not be a legitimate son of Jesse, and it kind of runs with that. It almost like when we talk about how accurate it is, it almost like it takes you right up to the line and just stops there before going anywhere. There's no rock monsters like there was in Noah, so that might make you feel comfortable.
I suppose, I mean, one thing we talk a lot about with The Chosen, which of course is the dramatic retelling of Jesus and his disciples. I'm a big fan of it, but of course some people
Mm,
do say, well, that definitely isn't in the Bible. And there's been a lot of extrapolation. And whenever I've spoken to Dallas Jenkins and the team behind The Chosen, they always say, is it plausible? We do our
mm.
research, we do our theology, and then we say, is it plausible that Jesus would say this or the disciples would say that? Has there been that sort of extrapolation in the House of David as well?
I've yet to see much in that. I think it's been asking the question, is David legitimate or not? And it's gone straight to Psalm 51, the line, "In sin my mother conceived me," and it's sort of taken that and kind of run with it a little bit. I think whenever it comes to something like this, you've got the purists and the tourists, haven't you? You've got the people who know everything word for word, can find you the concordance and the commentary to go with it. And put bluntly, this is probably not for you. If you want something accurate, then the Bible is literally right there. You can read it. What this functions as doing is it creates interest, you know, it makes it look dramatic and sound interesting. And frankly, if it draws more people to the original text, I think that is a net win.
So here's a question. Do you need to know the basics of the story of David to be drawn in? Would it work for an entirely a non-Christian, an audience that don't know their Bibles? Would they be drawn into the story of David?
Definitely. I mean, let's be honest. Most people, if you say David and Goliath, they'll get the idea, a little fella versus a big fella, and that's the general sort of in point. The thing that I find fascinating is it just kind of, how can I put it, fills in some gaps. Like David is this amazing musician, and David is this amazing shot with a slingshot. Those are not two skills that have a lot of overlap. And then you think, well, how does he end up being this most amazing shot and this most amazing musician? And then it makes it so simple. He is constantly forced to be out tending his flock on his own. He literally has nothing else to do. In simple terms, it's like Malcolm Gladwell with the 10,000 hours. He's been really good at flinging rocks at things because it's been his only form of entertainment. He doesn't have Amazon Prime.
That's true. You could get really good at stuff in the old days, couldn't you? It's produced by John Irwin, who is the director and producer of The Jesus Revolution, which was a big hit film, particularly in the States. Didn't kind
Mm.
of register quite so well over here. I mean, what do you sense is his hope with this? Does he want to draw people to Jesus, or is he just a great storyteller having fun?
I don't think either of those two things have to be mutually exclusive at all, frankly. Like the Bible itself, the story of the gospel. is a ripping, amazing story. And I think all you have to do is just divorce it from the stuffiness that's come along with it and actually say, well, what would this have looked like? And what would it sound like if we put in a like rising score that's going to hook people's attention and hook their interest? I think that the two things, frankly, if you are a bad storyteller, I think that's more of a disservice to the gospel and to the Bible. So, and I appreciate I am speaking from a biased position here, as somebody who likes to tell stories. Who I do a poem every year for our church, looking at different aspects. I did 1 year on Mary's midwife. I did 1 year on the shepherds, and you're always trying to think of a fresh way to tell a story that has been around for 2,000 years. And that's the challenge. And that's what's, I think David O has done an amazing job of.
And what's your hope for people who might just be scrolling through through Amazon Prime trying to find something to watch? What's your hope that people might be inspired by if they end up watching House of David?
I hope that they watch it obviously with my creator hat on. You want somebody to be able to give it the full time and attention, but I hope that they watch it, they watch it, and then they go straight to Google and say, did such and such really happen? Did this really happen? Anything that is going to prompt an interest in the Bible, I think, is going to be brilliant. And it's a good way to start having conversations with people about faith stuff when there's something that's decent out there to watch.
Absolutely. Giles Goff, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You can read Giles's review of House of David and also his reflections on Marvel's Daredevil and the latest issues of Premier Christianity magazine. You can just go to premierchristianity.com, premierchristianity.com, or listen to his God in Film podcast. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Giles.
You're tuned in to Inspirational Breakfast on Premier Christian Radio.